Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
On today's episode, we are joined by the incredible Mona Kattan. Now, she is the founder behind Kayali, a perfume brand that's redefining the way we wear and experience scent. As a serial entrepreneur and a beauty industry icon, she is just so impressive, and I know that you're going to love her as much as I did. So let's dive in and discover why she's a lady who launched. Right, before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you're going to, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it to your group chat. Well, welcome to Ladies Who Launch.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to sit and talk to you and celebrate your success.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful to watch from the outside, so I'm so pleased that you're here to talk to me.
Thank you, and same for you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, honestly, I've been following your career the past, few years and everything that you built. Congratulations on everything, and more power to you, and hopefully you reach the highest high.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I can't wait to see you disrupt all of the categories you're in.
Oh, I love you. That is so kind. And also, we must say that we've had a bit of a glow up in the studio. We are everywhere. Everybody smells incredible, and we are branded.
Great.
And I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
When starting the podcast, it really became clear to me that women often have some kind of influence in their younger life. So I always like to start the podcast in the same space. And that is hearing about the younger you and your earlier life and how that looked. So tell me a little bit about Mona when she was a little girl.
Oh my God.
It's a big question.
Haven't thought about it in a while. So I had an interesting childhood. I grew up in the States, in middle America. I grew up in Tennessee, a small town, and then Dartmouth, Massachusetts, also a very small town, to immigrant parents who came from Iraq. So we grew up with, a very interesting home. My mom is very religious and traditional. My dad is a workaholic, and he's all about education. He was a professor for many years. So between the two of them, they were always encouraging hard work and a lot of purpose and meaning. So I think I've always really pushed myself really hardly because of my parents. And I've always really been into beauty because I was a pageant princess. I was in pageants from the age of 3 until 7.
Amazing.
And that's where I started getting obsessed with makeup, with glam, with beauty, even performing, being on stage and just kind of having that experience to be in the spotlight to some extent. So I think that kind of unknowingly created this path of where I am today. I lived in the States for 17 years. Then I moved to Dubai, and I've been there now for 23 years. But yeah, I'd say that, I've always been raised to be obsessed with beauty and feeling your best, but also to work really, really hard and push yourself.
And it's so interesting to me because as I said, I've followed you for a long time, but I was really reading about you and doing my research before this. And I know that you've talked about the fact that you worked in a bank for a year at your parents' request. And this really, really kind of interests me. Did you feel because I've definitely felt like this in my time. I've not really conformed, much to everyone's disappointment.
Thank God.
But did you sort of feel a pressure to have that stereotypical kind of reliable job, like a serious job?
Absolutely. That was my first serious career job. I was working since I was 14 years old, so I had many full-time jobs in high school. I worked in university part-time, but my first career job was working in a bank, and that was my dad's pressure. He grew up with very humble beginnings, so for him, just having something very stable, very risk-free was important for him to feel like I would be safe. So he really pushed me and my siblings to follow some sort of safe career path. And I was there for about a few months, and I was I knew immediately it was not for me. I don't think it was finance specifically, because I love numbers, I love math, I love investing, I love that world. But it was the environment, and it was also not being able to go outside of my my remit, you know. I
Right.
felt very limited, and I'm a person who loves to do more than what I'm supposed to do. So I felt very bored. I was like, I feel like because I'm junior, I was an analyst. I was like, I can only do a very small window of things, and they don't want me to go outside of it. I tried. I was like, what if I help with this? What if I help with that? And I wanted to go beyond that, but it was not encouraged, you know?
Right.
So, and it was also the global crisis. It was 2008. So it was like a really negative sentiment that time. So I think timing is everything. And yeah, I told my dad shortly after, I was like, I hate it here. I feel like a dog, cat, like in a car, and like I'm trying to go outside the window, and I'm stuck inside. And he's like, stay 1 year. So I did. I stayed 1 year, and a year and 1 month later I resigned. I was like, I need to go. I didn't have a plan at all. I had no idea what I was going to do. And then last minute, all my friends were telling me, get into PR. I had no background in PR at the time. But they're like, you love everything that you love, you talk about nonstop and you won't shut up about it. They're like, you're perfect for PR. So me and my friend started a PR agency together. And he really helped teach me so much about PR, but I had no idea what I was going to do.
That is so interesting. So that to me says that from the jump, you knew that you were kind of able to take those risks, not conform, not stay in that kind of
I had a low salary.
risk.
So I think that's why.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't have much to lose. Like, I've always been a hustler, so like I was doing so many side things in university, and like when I totaled it up, it was like what I make on my side hustles is more than what I make as a salary. So I was like, I don't have that much to lose. I think if I would have waited longer and got more, secure with a better package, a better salary, I probably would have been stuck. But I left before I got too comfortable.
Wow.
So I didn't have much to walk away from, to be honest.
So talk to me about the PR agency. What was the PR agency called?
Mastermind PR.
Nice.
It was actually my friend who named it. He was the one who taught me the ropes. And it was very interesting. It was one of the best learning experiences I ever got, because we didn't do only PR. We did PR and business consulting, but we focused on branding and just like, building your community before social media days. So it was a very interesting.
Ahead of the curve.
It was before it even existed, really, like before it was really meaningful. Like Facebook was around then, but that was it, So we had to kind of work on building real life communities through our own networks, through other people's networks. So it was such a different time, but it was super interesting, and just learning how to like hack the system and make a brand or product get media. By getting the right celebrity to wear it. That was the way you did it back then. It was like you had to get a celebrity to talk about your brand. And if you could, through having no budget. So it taught me to be really scrappy. It taught me to really focus on building relationships, because again, originally I worked with startup brands who had no budget. Some of them didn't even pay me.
Right.
So I was like, I have to be really creative and also use my network and build my network to get people to do favors for me. So it was a really great lesson and super interesting. And I definitely took that on to everything that I did after that.
Yeah, I mean, so many tools learned, like you say, so many tools that you can then later on apply into everything that you've then achieved since. I want to sort of then fast forward to Huda Beauty, because there are so many questions I have, by the way. There are so many questions I have in terms of being in business with my sister. I can't imagine it.
Oh, you're not in business with you?
No.
Probably a wise decision.
I think we're safe there. And like, she's my best friend, but I just can't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
But on this podcast, we've spoken to so many different founders that are perhaps in business with their friends or husbands, and it really can sometimes change the dynamic, sometimes for the better,
right,
but also sometimes for the worse too. So I've got so many questions, but I want to talk about back then and your sister being Huda. She was using some lashes, right?
Right.
Can you sort of unpick this for me?
Sure.
So she obviously has a big influence.
Right.
And she was using lashes that were kind of custom made.
She was cutting lashes up together and using them on her clients, and a lot of her clients were my friends. So they actually used to come to me and be like, where can we get Huda's lashes from? So one day I just had an epiphany, and it was also because, to be fair, I had a beauty salon at that time. So I had started a beauty salon, and I was looking on Alibaba for items for my salon, because locally, the markup was insane in Dubai, like for all the materials that we were sourcing. So I would go on Alibaba and I'd search for like mass quantities of things for my salon. So I saw lashes on there. And then I kept hearing this question, and I told her, I was like, how would you feel about starting a lash brand? You know, I keep hearing this question about where can you get your lashes? Where can you get your lashes? And at that time, I think the salon was about 6 months to 9 months old. And I learned a lot about general management. So it was the first time I had a real business, because in the PR agency, I was self-employed. There was no employees. We didn't even have a trade license, to be honest. We were using my friend's parents' trade license. But it was the first time I invested in CapEx, you know, had to do everything from like a GM perspective. So it made me realize business is not rocket science at all. It's not that hard in terms of getting it started.
Yes.
What's hard is like keeping it going and growing and not dying, having a successful business. But launching alone itself is not that difficult. It's just getting the work done. It's being tenacious and not giving up. So I was like, what do you think about starting a brand? And she was like, if you can help with like the business side of things, because I had more experience at that time, she was like, I'm all for it. So we started with one supplier, 5 lashes. My sister Alia had put up the capital and everything. And we worked together as 3 sisters, and we launched the brand. This was in 2013. And we never thought from day one that it would eventually become a full category beauty brand. But we just took it one step at a time. And at that time, there was a huge gap in the lash category because MAC was really popular. It was a great price point, but it was still more expensive than Huda Beauty. And also, there was not enough variety. Like they didn't have more wispy, more natural lashes. It was still like the very fake lashes back then.
Yeah.
So, what she offered was something very unique, and her creativity, there was a gap for that.
I think it's so interesting too, because one thing from the outside when it launched is that I could really feel that the disruption was about to happen.
You were around. I feel like you're so young.
I did, yeah, I
You're
wish.
too young to remember
I
those
wish.
days. Oh
I
my
wish.
God.
If only that is very nice.
You look way younger.
We're all seeing the right people. I just really remember how exciting it was, and what is so interesting to hear that, and connecting the dots now and unpicking it, I can really see that your time in branding and helping other brands be seen with being a bit scrappy and that scrappy startup mentality. I can really see that.
Yeah.
Did it feel like an exciting time?
Very exciting. Stressful.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yes.
But very exciting, because I think when you have no team and barely any resources, like barely any capital, you have to be so creative.
Yeah.
So creative. And I love problem solving. Like problem solving is where I get a lot of my energy from. So I like having a lot of pressure. I like being challenged. And that was a very challenging time. I'm not saying it's not anymore. It's more challenging and probably more complex challenges.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was like just having, and I also there was some beauty of like being 3 people in the room working together and like having to figure it out with very little. It's hard.
It's so interesting because...
And it trauma bonds you.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all got those trauma bonds. It's so interesting because actually problem solving is my worst part of being a founder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Call me.
Yeah, I'm like, can you please?
I'll help you troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Like, it's a thing that I'm like, but I feel like, okay, armor on today. I'm so into the creative, and they're like, NPD and all of that, I get such a thrill out of. And that part, I think, oh gosh, okay, this is where I'm like, oh, it's a business. I remind myself that it's not a passion project anymore.
Well, you know what? I'm sure it's both. And you have to have that balance, right? And maybe it's your other team members or your co-founders or partners who can help you balance it out. And I think that was probably the beauty of working together at that time. We had very different skill sets, very different personalities. And I think that's great. And that's what I try to do now. Now I'm no longer working with my family, but in terms of building the team, I always try to find people who are very different to me, think different to me, are better than me in many ways that help fill the gaps. And I've learned that is super critical, like bringing people that are very different to you.
And I suppose starting up, it must almost feel like a little bit of a sort of safety net too, you being so close. Like when people go into business with friends, there's more of a risk that a fallout could happen, but your sisters are your sisters, right? And I suppose that must bring a little bit of a safety net to all of you for different reasons.
For sure. And I think timing is everything. Like today, would I do it again? Like start a new business with my sisters? No, I wouldn't. Only because I've evolved as a person and I went from being extremely codependent to like, I just want to be independent. Like that's really important to me. More because I have a clear vision of what I want and I don't want to sacrifice for anybody else. But I think timing was, we didn't have salaries to pay anyone. So everybody worked for free for many years. So I think that's one of the benefits of working with family. If you do give equity and you're more likely to stay long term, because sometimes with partnerships and when you're just partners or your friends, people maybe want to change their mind a few years down the line and then it gets difficult because you have to buy people out and maybe you don't have the money to do so. So with family, you're more long term a bit. So you can think, okay, even if we have to do this for 5-10 years, you're less likely to jump ship and go somewhere else. But again, in this stage of my life, like I just turned 40, I wouldn't do it again. I'm all about independent paths. But we were in our 20s back then. So like that was the right time to do so.
I mean, the variation already, I love it. I love it. I love the kind of, and it feels very similar to me. I can really understand those different the pivots and the way that happens. I want to talk about the moment you have the light bulb to take that time for you and knowing instantly what it is you were going to do.
You mean with Kayali?
Yeah.
So that was a journey as well, to be honest. So I've always been obsessed with fragrances my entire life. Like since I was a child, my sense of smell was my favorite sense, to be honest, because I'm very sensitive, very emotional, and I'm more about feelings than visual. So like I really love smelling things. Moving to Dubai made that love skyrocket. And then when I first discovered niche fragrances, that was when I was like, oh my God, my life has changed. Wow. And I'm so obsessed. But I actually worked on fragrance samples before even launching a salon. So actually one of the brands that I did PR for, I begged them to do their PR. I did it for free perfume. It was Kayali, which was my first niche fragrance I ever owned. It was gifted to me from a friend. And that's when I was like, I really want to do this one day. I met the founders, learned their story, and I fell in love with them. I still love them so much. And I actually tried to work with them on a brand. I tried with some other people. I tried with investors, but it never worked out. So it was on the back burner. And it went on the back burner for longer than I had thought it would be because Huda Beauty exploded. And again, timing. The color category skyrocketed 2015, 16, 17, and even 18. It was like a crazy boom because of social media and content creators. And fragrance did not. Fragrance was the forgotten category until COVID. It was undisrupted. It was boring. It was the same recipe, the same equation constantly. That's why even though we launched Kayali in end of 2018, it struggled for the first few years because it was not disrupted. And we were probably too soon. We were trying to, teach this new experience, this new ritual of layering, this whole new idea that people weren't really ready for yet, and the content creator community wasn't there yet. So it was a really big battle for the first few years. I'd say 2021 was when it really kind of started to snowball and grow. But yeah, I've always wanted to create a fragrance brand. I wanted to do it with my family, and I didn't want to eventually carve out and do it on my own, but I realized that I had to when I started my therapy journey, which was also in COVID. COVID was such a
big moment, wasn't it? The self-reflection.
I didn't know I was codependent before. Yeah. And so when I started my therapy journey, they were like, my therapist and people in my lives at the time were like, you're so codependent with your siblings. And especially with my sister Huda, because we grew up very close, probably because of the immigrant background. My parents always made me hang out with her all the time because they wanted me to be safe. I'm the younger, I was the baby in the family. So I was not even realizing it, that I was always kind of like glued to her and my siblings.
Well, that becomes your normal, right? You don't even realize that that's
unhealthy,
or that's a trait, or that's of course.
Absolutely. So I was always trying to push her to do things with me, and I was always doing whatever she was doing with her without her consent. I was like, we're doing this together. So I think, I was unaware, and that therapy journey really helped me. And then like slowly over time, I realized for Kayali to really be what I want it to be and what my vision is, and even my team's vision for the brand. Our appetite is so big. We have to be independent. So that was like a 2-year journey of carving out.
And it's almost such a sort of band-aid to rip off, because that's real growth. That's like self-growth. You know, the business, you want that to fly in its own way and take its own new path. But it's exciting.
Very. And scary.
Yes, and scary and everything else
But
in between.
very exciting.
But it's a big moment. It's a big moment. I want to talk about, so you launched in 2018. And like you say, the first few years, and I actually I've completely overlooked this until you just said it, but it makes perfect sense. COVID did something, didn't it, in terms of the fragrance space and the layering. Layering becomes such a huge trend, huge trend. So what was difficult about launching and those first few years? What made it hard? Was it the kind of getting people to understand, getting people to be interested? What was it that was the challenge?
To be honest, it was a lot of challenges. If I had to pick the top challenge, it was everybody followed the same equation because it worked.
Right.
So it was launch a commercial juice, meaning it's been there, done that a million times over. Get a big celebrity, put it on billboards, do mass sampling, and that's what would work. We didn't have the budget for that.
Right.
At all. And it's also not what I wanted to do at all. Like, that is not what I wanted to create a brand for, you know? So we didn't have budget. The industry and the community was not ready. Even the retailers weren't ready, because when we shared the concept, they really only took a bet on us because, you know, we had proven ourselves already with Huda Beauty. But had we presented it with no background, I'm sure it'd be very difficult to go into, you know, more of a global launch the way we had at the time. Which was a blessing and a curse, because it was great. But then when we didn't perform, the pressure was super real. Like, the expectations were very, very high from the very beginning. So yeah, the industry was not ready, but it's good because we didn't give up. And because of that, we were seen as the trendsetters who really pioneered the layering story and the concept and everything. So, you know, it was also a gift and a curse. Being early was hard, but because we didn't give up, I think we set a lot of trends, which is really exciting.
Of course, and now people will continue to look to you, because that's kind of, again, a blessing and a curse, because you've always got to be ready.
Right.
I think there's, and you just touched on it then in when it comes to retailers, because there's that pressure, and there's also that kind of misconception of people thinking from the outside looking in that the biggest challenge is to get into the retailer, which of course it is, you know, and whether you decide to go down that straight D2C route. For me, I can compare it to my business, which is baby toiletries, right? I wanted to be on every high street here. And we launched with Boots, and I wanted people to go onto the high street and be able to buy the baby lotion and buy the, you know, the hair product and kind of see that in the flesh. So it was really important to me to find a great retail partner. However, once you get it in the door, that's great. And that's a moment where we all get very excited and celebrate, of course. But keeping consistent with that retailer and securing that shelf space and making sure that you maximize those opportunities and really kind of continue building out that relationship. That's kind of where the real work starts, right?
Absolutely. For sure. And I think a lot of people don't think about it, including myself, before.
Well, I didn't. I'm with you.
Yeah. It's like you work so hard to get into something, or even just to launch the business. But the true test of time is like, will you be able to continue growing? Because you're either growing or dying. There's no in between.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a plan to like grow continuously, you're in trouble, you know, and you really have to think of that 5-year roadmap, 10-year roadmap. What's your North Star? Where do you want to be eventually? What is the end goal? If you don't think about that, you're behind.
It's you're so right, because I think sometimes you can focus on the first phase of launch, and of course there's an end goal, but there is so much that goes into what the world's going to see first. That actually, when you secure that retailer space, they're like, this is amazing, what's next?
Absolutely.
And there comes that pressure,
and your productivity, your own profitability, like all these things that a lot of times we don't think of, because we think of the exciting part. But it's like the other part is super important. It's almost as important as the creative part. So you have to like force yourself to do that not as fun part, and like focus on it and have many plans.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your day-to-day role and how that looks, because from where I'm sat in this seat, it sounds like, as most founders do, you wear so many hats.
Yes.
So how do you kind of, what does a normal day in the life of Mona look like?
Oh my gosh.
You're going to tell me there isn't one.
I mean, to be honest, there is and there isn't, because I'm a very, very structured routine person. Like, I have a routine. I follow it almost to the T every single week, you know? So like my Monday through Friday is blocked out, and, you know, occasionally I'll travel for work and everything, but whenever I am in the office back home, like, I have a routine and I follow it. So I split my time mainly through a few different categories. Product development is definitely one of them. Marketing and content is one of them. And then overall management is another. Right now I'm spending a lot of time in recruitment, because that's like a big part of what we're doing because of the carve out. We went from being 30 full-time dedicated employees this time last year to now, by the end of August, we're going to be 99. So
Oh my
we've
gosh,
tripled
girl.
the size.
That's a lot.
And we have to get to 140 by the end of the year. So it's a lot of just team building, you know, people and culture building. But to be very honest, I have a wonderful team and we divide and conquer together. So I'm not I'm the opposite of a micromanager. I empower everyone and we all work on things together.
I had an interview with Emma Greed, and I find
I love her.
that she's great, isn't she? She's great.
Yes.
And she was our first guest on this podcast, and we were talking about recruiting, and she actually says she's kind of always on when it comes to recruiting. She always takes meetings. She'll always meet somebody new, and not because she's particularly recruiting for a particular role, but actually she thinks, and I thought it was such good advice, it's always something to keep up, because you might have lunch with somebody or you'll meet them for coffee, or, you know, you'll interview, and actually you might not need that person right now at this time, but you bet your bottom dollar 6 months later you'll be like, remember that girl that we met? She was great. Let's reach out to her and see if she's free. So I think it's quite a sort of interesting approach. I never saw it like, I kind of saw that side of the business like we will recruit when we need, and that's a phase that we're going through. But it's actually quite a good door to never close.
100%. I think people are your number one asset. Like, more important than anything is people, and that's your existing team, but your future team that you might not know of yet. So I think that's a great idea. And I think I'm pretty similar. I network a lot. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and even just going to events to try and meet people who might be, you know, part of our team one day, or even not, just industry friends, people you might want to collab with one day. So I think people, and again, probably going back to my PR days, I think that was the number one lesson I learned. Relationships are everything.
Yeah.
People are everything. Without people, you have nothing.
That
Nothing.
is so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. And there's no job like PR that will teach you that, right?
Absolutely.
People are everything.
Absolutely.
So we get to COVID. You're kind of in this, I suppose, like we all were a little bit around 2020, right? It was life-changing for so many different reasons, for the good and for the bad for some
Right.
people. But it really gave us that time and that space to be able to think ahead, and what happens when the world doesn't look like this, and what are we going to do, and how we're going to make every second count. When did you start to realise that the dial was turning and people were really ready for fragrance again?
I would definitely say that the turning point was 2021.
Right.
And it built into 2022. Like, 2022 was the year where Sephora was like, okay, we're paying attention now. We're going to really like hold hands, take bigger risks with you, give you more space. But 2021 was a great year for us as a brand. We built our community a lot. There was a lot more content creators, but we also launched 4 fragrances that year. Wow. And prior to that, we had only launched 5 over, 2.5 years. So we finally were able to take more risks. And I had a team for the first time, because prior to that, I didn't really have my own dedicated team.
Right. That was solely focused.
I had one person in product development in the very beginning. And then in the end of 2020, I got somebody in content creation and also in marketing, who's with me today. But, prior to that, it was very difficult because everything was shared, and it just wasn't set up for success until like getting a small independent team. It made a huge impact.
And how, I wonder, with content creation when it comes to fragrance, is that quite is it something that's quite hard to execute? Because actually, when it's makeup or if it's skincare even, it's quite visual. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of trusting the taste level,
Right.
as it were, of that content creator to be able to say that's exactly what I want to smell like. Is that quite a challenge?
So hard.
Yeah,
And I didn't
just
realize
thought
it.
of that in real time, and I'm like, that's quite a hard thing to kind of articulate.
It was really hard, actually. And that was something that I would say was super naive before launching the brand, because I didn't think about all of this.
No.
I just thought, because I started the development of Kayali, like the actual brand, in January 2017.
Right.
And up until COVID, really, as a group, we never experienced even a taste of resistance in the market. So everything we'd launch would be a huge hit, just always. So when we launched Kayali and it didn't really meet expectations, I was shocked. So I didn't even think about the fact that our community is going to be supportive, but if you don't storytell right, there's going to be a limit. People will buy it once, but they won't rebuy, and not everybody will buy. You won't buy it. You won't grow outside your community, and you can't rely on only on your community to succeed. You need people outside your community supporting to really be a brand of meaningful size to a partner like Sephora. So, it was a learning, and definitely I feel like the therapy helped me a lot. So I didn't even realize through my therapy journey, which I talk about a lot because it did change my life so much. I had really stopped expressing myself enough, and I even didn't understand sometimes how to express my emotions. So I did a lot of work. I even did chakra unblocking and many different types of therapy. But I started to storytell again with my amazing team. They were like, "What does this make you feel?" We were trying to describe the fragrance online, because at that time, in the biggest markets like the US, we were only online, so people couldn't even smell it in store. So through content, we had to be describing what a fragrance is. What celebrity would you picture wearing this? What city does it take you to, etc. So that was a big learning curve, and it's still not easy. Even though we've been in the game now for almost 7 years, it's the hardest part of the job is explaining how things make you feel and making people understand that and relate to it, because it is so personal. So if I spray one of these scents,
spray them. Come on, let's do it. I'm in. Oh my gosh,
right?
Yes.
So this is vanilla candy. So to me,
I see. I'm already in. You sold me. The name does
you.
what it needs to do for me. I'm in.
So to me, this was playful childhood memories and moments, because it's got a lot of the playful candy, like bubble gum, jelly beans, etc.
Yeah, but it's not too. It does that in the best way. It's not too
Thank you
too
so much.
sweet,
Thank you. But to me, it's playful and fun. To someone else, it might not be that, you just don't know. It's so personal. And that's the hard part. And nobody's wrong. There's no right or wrong answer.
It's so relative, isn't it?
Right? This fragrance might make me feel sexy. It might make you feel like you want to put it on your child, your daughter. But it's, again, there's no right or wrong answer.
And I think it's so interesting you say that, because Jo Malone has been a guest, and she was saying that she's incredible, isn't she?
She's amazing. She lives in Dubai.
She lives in Dubai. It's right. And she was actually saying that all she says to her team constantly is, "Tell me a story." Oh. And that's her approach on everything.
That's nice.
Every single person in her team is a great storyteller,
because
that's where it has to come back to with what you guys do, right? And she says that she'll go when they set up a new store in a different location, wherever that is across the globe, her team will go in with pictures of Jo and childhood things and different, to really know that whoever's working in that store can tell the story in the correct way, because it really does. Smells are so nostalgic. This can really take you back to a different place, and I love that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's such a great idea.
It's good, really, isn't it? And I was like, it makes perfect sense, because it is all, when it comes to scent and fragrance, it is all storytelling.
Absolutely.
Completely.
And emotions. It's the two together. It's either it's going to be nostalgic and remind you of something, or someone's story will resonate with you, or instantly you feel a boost because of the citrus or the energizing notes in their ginger, spicy accords, whatever it may be, or it makes you feel sexy. It's so emotional and
this is so
nostalgic.
Good, by the way.
Oh,
it's so good. I keep smelling myself.
Thank you.
I want to talk about scaling. and scaling a business, because
The fun part.
yeah.
Not.
Exactly that. And it's so interesting, like when you're starting, you dream of scaling, right? When you're that scrappy startup and that's where you are, you dream to the point where, you know, growth is in sight. One thing that I feel like is unanimous with all founders, when it gets to that point of growth and managing the momentum without losing control, is one of the biggest challenges I think all founders face. Or it's a kind of a position that nobody wants to fill, because as much as, or sometimes you could be ready to give that control over because you're ready to sit in the place that makes you feel happy. As your business, and you know, and you've been part of this via many businesses now, were there any unexpected hurdles that you face as your business scaled?
Oh my God, so many. And through all lives, you know. Through Hooded Beauty, I would say the biggest hurdle was when we first got investors, and we were super small as a team at that time, which does remind me so much of where we are right now with Kayali, which scares me sometimes, but have so many learnings to reflect on.
Yeah.
We were encouraged to grow the team super quickly, to build up the market teams. And I think we did it too fast, but especially at a senior level, you know, and we didn't onboard people properly. We didn't have the North Star very clearly defined. We didn't have our values clearly defined. We didn't have KPIs clearly defined. Like it was very rushed. And again, I'm taking all those learnings. I always reflect, I always make notes, and I always try to like think critically of myself and whoever it may be to learn from. But I'm hoping not to repeat those mistakes. But that is one of the worst things that can happen when you scale, is like not knowing where you want to go. And that's why I tell everyone, think of your 5-year goal, your 10-year goal, and your end goal.
Right.
Because if you're not thinking about it, you're behind. You're really behind. You know, a year passes before you can like blink, right? Like before you know it's going to be 2028.
Product, because you're always ahead, aren't you? Thinking
Takes
of
2 years
Q1 next
sometimes
year and
to launch a product.
Yeah.
So, you know, think about the future, think about your values, define them super well, and tell everyone.
It's funny, your instant reaction was like, it's stressful. But it on the outside, it appears like such an exciting time. And of course it is, because you're aware that your business has legs to scale and to be able to grow. So of course it's exciting. But was there ever a time that you felt it was sort of hard to protect both the product quality and the team with new heads and new people that kind of wasn't there at the brand's conception?
Yeah, I mean, always, to be honest. In the past, but even now, it's something that is definitely very hard, and it's my job, it's all the leadership's job to ensure to protect that. So it's a battle, you know, and sometimes people will grow with you. Sometimes people don't want to grow with the company, and that's difficult. And we did see that a lot previously, you know, some people didn't want to keep up with the change. And you have to, when you're part of a fast growing business, you have to grow. First of all, like I have to grow. But then you need your team to also grow, because it's very demotivating when people aren't ready to get with it and be excited about it. But at the same time, you have to hold on to, you know, the story, the brand values, the brand details, and protect it with everything you can, just by being very detailed yourself. You know, so it's definitely a very hard part of the job.
Was there a particular thing that you felt that you really needed to kind of, I suppose, where you needed that growth? Was there a particular thing that you felt, actually, I need to move with this, and maybe I'm not thinking about X? Or
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the past, like especially if I rewind, you know, 7-8 years ago, I'd say that was the hardest time ever. That's when my role in the company would literally change every 3 to 6 months, because we would start recruiting people. Because, you know, if I rewind 8 years ago, I was the head of, you know, PR influencer, finance, accounting, legal, tech, you know, like all these things, everything that nobody else wanted to do in the family, I would do. So it was hard.
You're like me. You're like me as a sibling.
Well, I'm
I
a problem solver. Like I love solving problems, and when people say
you're good
it's
at
too, I just don't give up. I don't know if I'm good at it or I'm just super relentless. Like I hate giving up on things. Like to me, that's like torture when I have to give up on something. So, when there's a will, there's a way. So that's when I had to grow, because when we ended up hiring heads of departments for every single area, I was like, what do I do now? What am I supposed to do? And that's where you have to grow.
Yes.
Because you're no longer focusing on what's right in front of you. You have to grow as a person. And I think that was great timing, because that's when we started working on the development of Kayali, and then shortly after Kayali launched. And I think I should have grown faster. I wish I thought of these questions back then, so I would have had a better plan. But everything happens for a reason.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is your favorite role? Like, I feel like you have, as I said before, you've worn all the hats, which I love. What do you think you do best, and what do you love the most? And they might be two different things, but what do you think they would be?
I mean, what I love the most is creating. I love creating product. I do love creating content. I wish I had more time for it, but I love product development, and I love people. So I love working with the people and culture team and just trying to think of initiatives to benefit the team and make them feel important, to make them feel they figure out their growth paths too, how to give back to them. So, and even being the ambassador to the brand, like I love going to events and meeting people. Like I'm a people person, and that's probably one other reason why people told me to get into PR, is because naturally, like I don't think of it as a job when I meet people. Like I love meeting people. So being the ambassador, focusing on product development, because I'm a product junkie. I love perfume. I love products in general, but I love perfume. So I could play and try to think of innovative ideas all day. It doesn't feel like work to me. So those are my favorite things to do. And that is a big focus of what I'm doing now. But the harder part right now is just like getting the team onboarded and the recruitment side. It's not that I don't like doing it. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
I just don't have a lot of time right now. So that's the hurdle. But I think hopefully by the end of the year we'll get stabilized, and then I'll focus more on like the product development, the content.
Yeah, and it's a big phase. And you have to, it has to happen. It's kind of, like you say, you've got that period of time that this is going to be the priority.
Yeah.
And then you can get back to doing what
Hopefully.
you love. Yes. We're putting it out there into the universe now. I want to do our rocket round now.
Okay.
And I do this with each of our guests. And they are basically it's supposed to be a quick fire round.
Okay, so short answers.
We try. The first question is, what do you believe are the non-negotiables for launching a business?
Definitely an obsession. Like that is super important. If you're not obsessed, you're not going to go very far, and you're probably going to give up too soon. So is that it? Should I say more?
No, that's good. You can,
because I ramble a lot. So
that's fine. That's fine.
But if I had to pick one thing, obsession.
Yeah, I love that, and it's so true. Like we always say here, the days are going to be long, the months, the weeks, they can be hard, and if you're not obsessed and you don't love it to the core.
And also, most businesses fail. Let's be honest. The percentage of businesses that actually don't live past 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, super high, majority, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like 85, 90%. I think something like that. So if you were not obsessed with that, you're going to really regret putting all that time and energy. Yes. But if you were obsessed with that, even if it doesn't go anywhere, you're like, I loved it.
Yes. And I gave it everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely that. When did you first realize that you truly launched?
I still feel like I haven't.
oh, girl, let me tell you, you have. She says with an army of perfume behind her.
I don't know. I think more recently, we got a Fifi award. I don't know if you follow the Fragrance Foundation Awards. Yeah. So we've been nominated many years, and every year we're like, oh, we hope we win, but we haven't. So this was the first year we actually took a prize home for the one I sprayed you with.
And I see why. And I'm not just saying it, it's filled the room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, everyone, look, the crew are like, yes, nodding, it's filled the room. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. That was really exciting.
So that will do it.
Yes.
That will do it. There we go.
It's industry, and it's a very challenging award, and it was the US one too, where the competition is crazy.
And like you say, you're doing it because it's a passion and you know how good the product is, but those sort of moments of like those gold star moments are great to
Yes,
have
they are.
after the work and everything that goes
Absolutely.
into it.
No, that was great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is the first thing you do when you wake up and the last thing you do before you go to bed? I know you're a routine girl.
I am. I pray.
Love.
Yeah, I'm a very spiritual person, so I pray first thing in the morning, last thing at night. I do on my phone as well, which I shouldn't.
We all do a bit of that.
So I'm a bit of a phone addict, but I'm very spiritual, and I love praying.
Love that.
Thank you.
What's one piece of advice that you wish you hadn't listened to?
I would say probably like not leaning into who I am, being very emotional, having a lot of empathy. I think that that's your superpower, especially as a woman. And I think too many women are told that too often, of like, try to be more masculine almost.
Yes.
You know, which I don't think is a bad thing.
No.
I think it's important to have both energies, you know, but balance is very important. So I think a lot of female entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you probably have the same pressure of like, hide your feminine energy, which you shouldn't, you know, and I did that for a long time, and now I don't at all. It's everywhere.
Yes, I love that. I love
you.
that. You're so right. We're sort of conditioned to think we need to be like bossing it all the time in our power suits.
Absolutely.
And actually.
Or just like not having enough empathy. And I think that's actually a gift. And especially in leadership, I think that when you're too robotic with your people and you don't have compassion and empathy,
Agreed.
like that's just part of the past.
Yeah, emotion doesn't have to be a negative.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, I completely agree. What's one skill that you'd love to learn?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot. But if I had to pick one, it would either be like gardening, because I want to learn more about flowers because of
Nice.
fragrances, or cooking.
Ooh.
I'm a terrible cook. And I really admire people who cook well.
You either love it or you don't know. I do think that.
I love it. I'm just really
not
bad
good.
at it. I used to be really good at it. When I lived in America, I actually worked in a restaurant for 4 years. But
You should do like cooking classes to
I
have
should.
a bit of me time.
I should do
to
that.
switch off.
I would love to do that.
There you go.
I should.
I mean, when you've got a free
Next year.
Yeah, exactly. Not this year, babe. You're onboarding this year.
Exactly.
What is one thing you wish that someone had told you before you started your business?
Think of the 5-year, 10-year plan and the end goal. And do it independently. Don't get into partnerships too much.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes it works, but more than often it doesn't. And, you know, it really depends on like whose vision you're going to follow, because more than likely, if it's a co-founder relationship, you have to jointly agree on things, and that never works out long term. You know, either somebody has to take the back seat and allow one person to have more of the vision part of it, or someone's frustrated. So it's challenging. So I think do it independently. Think of your 5-year, 10-year, and end goal roadmap. What do you want to do? And really think of it from a meaningful perspective. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, that's
What's
so
your why?
true. Yeah, your why is so important. What would be the dream collab for your brand?
Oh my gosh. Oh, there's so many. I love so many brands. Oh my God.
Well, we were saying that we love like now that brands are doing like quite unlikely collabs.
They are. It's so cool.
Like powerhouses coming together, and I love to see it.
I mean, if I had to pick one, it might be, I don't want to sound like cliche, but I do love Louis Vuitton.
Oh, yeah.
I've always like imagined our our perfume bottles on their like bag.
Like a trunk or something. Oh my gosh, yes.
And it's part of LVMH and so Sephora, so you never know. Maybe I'll put that out there.
Oh, I can see it.
I'm gonna
I can
manifest
see it.
But I love their quality. Like as a brand, I think their quality, their legacy, like being able to have a brand for like 100+ years and to keep it growing and keep the brand value strong and alive, that's amazing. So
Timeless.
I'd love to do something with them. That's one.
Oh, I could see it.
Thank you.
I could see it. And then lastly, if you could choose one female figure as a mentor, past or present, who would it be?
Oh, I love this question. Oh, so many. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Oprah. I love her. She's like such an amazing role model to so many of us, but I think she's just such an extraordinary woman. I think, especially for her time, you know, she was so ahead of her time.
Oh, completely.
Like she was disruptive, you know, never took any, you know, excuses for anything. You know, she created her own path even though she didn't have to. And at that time, it would be very easy to blame society for
Yeah.
like becoming complacent. But she was so ahead of her time and so disruptive, and she pioneered for everyone, you know, so she's amazing.
You're so right. She opened the door. When you
She
actually
really
think
did.
about it, in that space, she opened the door for so many
Everyone.
women.
Especially minority women.
Yeah.
You know, like she is the example.
Yeah.
No excuses.
She's incredible.
Exactly.
I would just love, you know what I would love to like sit and have like a glass of wine with Oprah. She's got some stories, hasn't
I'm
she?
sure.
And she's very generous with her time and her
Yeah.
knowledge and her stories. But I
Yeah.
would love to kind of have an off the record chat with her.
I would die for that,
Yeah.
honestly.
Let's put it into
Let's
the
do it
universe.
together.
If you're listening, Oprah.
Let's do it.
And then I get every guest to leave a tip for a listener, sort of one piece of tangible advice that, say somebody's listening now and they love fragrance and it's their dream to launch a fragrance brand or a beauty brand. What would one tip, if you could say this is what you should do, what would that be?
I would say just do it. Don't overthink it. Like, a lot of people overthink things way too much. Like, just start something and be okay with failure. You know, maybe you launch it and maybe you close it down and then you launch something bigger eventually. But like, too many people just don't try. So just do it, experiment, and be okay with it not working out. And that's, you know, of course you have to be taking calculated risks. Like, you don't want to spend your whole life savings on something. But if you can afford to produce minimum quantities, experiment, just trial something, you never know what it could lead to.
Yes.
You know, my dad always says this saying, al-haraka baraka. In Arabic, that means with movement comes blessings. And it's so true. It's like,
I love that.
you just have to move. And I actually remember one book that I read before I quit my job. It was, I forget the guy's name. I think it's Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's his name. But he wrote a book about what to read before you quit, the lessons to learn before you quit your job. And one of the lessons was about Bill Gates and Microsoft. And he was saying how one of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting for things to be perfect. But with Bill Gates and Microsoft, he launched Microsoft Windows knowing there were so many bugs, so many issues, but he kept sending updates every however often. Nothing will ever be perfect. Just do it.
So true. That is great advice.
Thank you.
Great advice. And lastly, I like to leave it on a light note. And well, you've touched on this yourself. You said you'd love to learn to cook. I love food.
Did I say that?
You're going to regret that now. No pressure. I like to end by knowing how everybody spends their lunch hour.
Oh.
So we talk about ladies who launch, but when it comes to ladies who lunch, how do you spend your lunch hour? Where are you? And what are you eating?
Oh, no. I'm very naughty.
Be naughty. This is a
I'm
safe
usually
space.
doing a working lunch, usually multitasking, usually checking messages, getting back to people. Occasionally I get to have lunch with my dad because he comes to the office every day. So I drag him to work. So that's really fun when I'm able to do that. But lately, just because this year has been so crazy in the past few years, I'm multitasking.
Yeah.
But hopefully that will change next year, and hopefully I can just relax a bit and enjoy.
You'll be happy to know that every time I ask this question, 9 times out of 10 people say, a lunch hour? What's one of those?
It's like 15 minutes. And then I cram everything
And what
else.
are you grabbing? What's the first thing? Like if I was your assistant and I was like, okay, I'm going to order her lunch now. What am I ordering?
I try to eat clean. It's usually just vegetables with chicken.
I like it.
And a double espresso.
Protein
Always.
and caffeine.
Exactly.
Always a winner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. But I got to switch to your matcha.
Yes, there you go. I'm going to send you with some
Thank
matcha.
you.
I've absolutely loved talking
Thank
to
you
you
so much.
and
Same
loved
here.
getting to know more about your journey. And
Thank you.
it is so inspiring to watch on from the outside.
Thank you so much.
You have really built an empire.
Thank you. Do I get to spray with more perfume now
Please.
that we're done?
I
Great.
literally, I think everyone wants to.
Thank
You can make this room smell a lot
Thank
better.
you so much.
Thank
You're so
you.
sweet. Thank you.
Love that. Don't forget to follow us on Apple, on Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts to make sure that you don't miss out, because next time we're going to be joined by another incredible lady who launched. If, like me, you're a watcher, then please follow us on YouTube and don't forget to like and subscribe.